Good evening and welcome back to the Motorcycle Fixer. This evening we're going to do the timing on this YZF426 engine. So for some reason people think it's difficult to do the timing on these big 4-strokes, but to be honest with you, it's very simple. As long as you make sure everything's okay, then you won't have any problems. So we're going to get on with that now. The first thing to do when you're doing the timing on one of these is to make sure that the piston is at top dead center. So what I do, without having to put the side cover on and to see the timing marks, is I use a round-ended Allen key, long one. Put that down the spark plug hole, and then if we put the flywheel on so that we can turn it like this, and then find top dead center on the piston there. What you'll find, it's not always the case, but certainly on the more modern ones, what you'll find is that the Woodruff key is usually pointing, when it's at top dead center, it's usually pointing in line with the cylinders or very close to. So as you can see, so rock it back and forth until that piston is at the top, and we know that's at top dead center. I like to do it without the flywheel bolted on and everything else bolted on, so that I can see that the cam chain is properly on the sprocket. Because in the past I've had it where the cam chain comes off the sprocket on the bottom, and then you're trying to do the timing and then it'll jump a tooth or something. So I like to do it this way, without the cover and without the flywheel bolted on. So that's quite easy. Right, so the idea now is, now that our piston is at top dead center, we need to put our cams at top dead center, or where they should be for top dead center. When the cams are set to top dead center, you see the dimples there on the actual cam, and there's one there. They need to be in line with this face here, and there's another dimple at the top there for counting how many chain links are in between the two, but we'll get to that in a minute. So when it's at top dead center, the cam lobes should be pointing away from the valves. So on a single cylinder like this one, the cam lobes must not be pressing the valves down when you tighten it up. So as you can see, that's top dead center there, and the cam lobes are actually, if I can lift this camera up, the cam lobes are facing back there, but slightly up in the air. Okay, so that's what we need to do. We need to wrap the chain around that in that position, and then the same on the front one. This one is going to be, again, there, one pip at the top and the two level with the casting. Okay, so in that position, without moving the crank at the bottom, we'll get this one in line there. And we'll get this one Now it doesn't matter if you don't get it the first time, you just move the cam around. So one tuck there, check where that is. Oh, and again and again. Let's go the other way. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rock this back and forward just to make sure it's still at top dead center. It doesn't matter how many times you check it, it's always good to just make sure. And then I'm going to put my finger in the chain tensioner hole to pull the chain tight. And then I'm going to check that our points are lined up with the top of the casting, which they are. So that means now that the timing is right. So the timing side of it really is actually done. The other check to do is to make sure that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pins between the two top dimples. And that also tells you that one cam isn't out to the other one. So you need them to be level on the casting, and you need it to be 12 pins between the two top dimples. So there we are, that is really the timing complete. Next we need to bolt the covers on, retaining plates on here, and then we can check the shims then and make sure that the shims are correct and the valve gaps, valve clearances are correct. First we got to put our half moon positioning shim in on the top. If you look at the top face here, there's usually a mark, so you can get the cam kind of more or less lined up to where it should be. There. Then put the half moon on, and then when you put the retainer in, make sure this is very clean in between here, because if there's any bits it will actually bind on the cam. So when you put that on there in the dowels, it pops straight on. So there we are, we've got 6 bolts in that one. When you tighten these bolts up, on some of the 4-stroke engines they'd actually numbered, which with a sequence to tighten them up. Or the ones that's not numbered usually just do diagonal, so you'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just to make sure that it tightens down evenly. If this cam is bound by the cover plate and you can't turn it, then when you start the bike up, the cam will pick up the aluminium and then you could ruin your head. So you've got to make sure that your cams still turn after you've tightened it up. So this is our second one now. Again with the half moon. Make sure it's aligned with the mark on the casting. We're gonna make sure it's clean so that it doesn't bind, and then that one should slot over. And the front one then is just the 4 bolts. There we are. I'll carry on and tighten these up now, and then we'll check the shims. So I just nipping these up now. I think the torque setting is only about 8 or 9 Newton meters for these top bolts. I don't have a torque wrench small enough, so just make sure you don't over tighten them. But as you can see, you need to make sure that that cam is still, no, that's tightened down and there's still movement in that cam, as you can see. So you need to make sure that when you tighten this down, that doesn't jam up. Is very important. Okay, so the next one. And there we are. Okay, so if I put my finger now in the chain tensioner hole, tension the chain, check our markings, and they're all still in line. Put this down the spark plug hole again, rock it back and forth until it's at the top. You literally can't check it enough times. You just, you know, every time you do something, check to see that the alignment is still correct. Timing wise, now that's okay. Now if the shims are okay on this, it's done. We can put the chain tensioner in. But now we need to check our valve clearances. The valve clearances on this YZF426 should be 0.1 to between 0.1 and 0.15 on the intake, and between 0.2 and 0.25 on the exhaust. So what we're actually looking for is that our 0.1 shim will go in and our 0.15 shim shouldn't. So this is our 0.1 shim, which goes through all our clearances. So now we need to check it with a 1.5 shim. Sorry, with a 1.5 feeler gauge. The 1.5 doesn't go through the first one, that's good. Doesn't go through the second one, so that's good. And it doesn't go through the third one, so that means that this inlet cam and valve clearances is set. So that's perfect. So now on the outlet, on the exhaust, the 0.2 feeler gauge should go in. Into both, so that's between the cam lobe and the bucket. So that's our 0.2, and then our 0.25 shouldn't go between the cam lobe and the bucket. I think I need some new feeler gauges, because this one, that's our 0.25 there, so this one shouldn't go in, and that's perfect, and it doesn't. So now our our cams are timed, our shims are checked, and our valve clearances is correct. So now we can put our chain tensioner in, and then we'll check the timing again after this is correct. With this chain tensioner, that's all we need to do. Just get a screwdriver a second. So what we need to do with this chain tensioner is we need to put it in, and then we need to turn the screw in the end clockwise and hold it there while we do our bolts up. There is a small tool that you can get for these, but it's easy enough to do it with a screwdriver. The only problem is sometimes is if the engine's in the bike and the carb is in the way when you're doing the chain tensioner, then you were limited for space really. But when you're doing it like this on a bench, and sometimes with the little screwdrivers that you get in Christmas crackers, they're like a perfect length to get in, so don't throw them away. There we are. I'm just gonna nip that up now. With a new gasket on it as well. And there we are. Just gonna back it off again, make sure that it's doing its job. Then I'm going to give the engine a complete revolution. Make sure nothing binds up. Which is hard, and it's hard to turn it past the springs, especially on the inlet. And there we are. Then we check the timing once again with our trusty Allen key. Rock it back and forth until it's at the top. Then check our dimples. There we are. And that's perfect. So there we are, we've checked the valve clearances, we've set the timing. Now we can go up building our stator plate, alternator, put the cover on the top, put the spark plug in before anything drops down the hole. I hope that you've learned something from that. I mean, drop the questions in the comments below if you have any questions on it. But it is quite simple. I hope you can see that, I don't know, there's kind of a mystique with these 4-stroke engines that doing the timing is difficult, but as you can see, if you take time and you know what you're looking for, then it is really quite simple. So I hope that video has helped. If you do like the content on the channel, please subscribe, because it will help me out a lot. I'm at nearly 700 subscribers now, so I'm hoping to get to 1,000. So like I say, please subscribe, please like the video if you like it, and please comment if there's something else that you want me to do on a video you'd like me to make. I do plan on continuing on with the pit bike engine, but I'm in the middle of moving out of my shop at the moment, so I need to get some of these other engines done first, so that's why this one was first. Okay, I'll thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.